Level 1, Junior Operations Officer. The fluorescent light above your desk flickers once, then holds. You pretend not to notice it. You pretend not to notice a lot of things here. The man across the hall has not looked at you in 3 weeks, and you have learned that this is not rudeness. It is protocol. It is the first lesson no one teaches you directly. You absorb it the way you absorb everything now, quietly, carefully, without letting your face show that you are absorbing anything at all. Your badge is new. The laminate still catches the light at certain angles. You keep it turned face down on your desk when you are not moving through corridors, because you watched someone else get a look for doing the opposite. Small things matter here. They matter more than you expected. Your first real assignment is a translation review. 300 pages of intercepted communications, cross-referenced against 2 other analysts' summaries. You find a discrepancy on page 212, a single word rendered differently. You sit with it for a long time before flagging it. You are not sure if flagging it will make you look sharp or make someone else look careless. You flag it anyway. Nothing happens. No one thanks you. No one mentions it. A week later, you are given a second assignment, and it is slightly more sensitive than the first. That is your answer. That is how things work here. Approval does not sound like words. It sounds like more responsibility arriving without explanation. You go home that night and sit in your apartment without turning on the television. You realize that you have spent the entire day performing stillness, and now, alone, you are not sure how to stop. Level 2, Operations Officer, Field Certified. You are sitting in a cafe in a city you are not allowed to name, drinking coffee you do not want, waiting for a man who may not come. This is the 3rd time this week you have sat in this chair. The waiter recognizes you now. That is a problem you will have to manage. You make a note of it somewhere behind your eyes, where you store everything that cannot be written down. The man comes, he sits. He does not look at you directly, and you do not look at him. You speak about weather, about football, about a restaurant neither of you has visited. Somewhere inside that conversation is the information you came for. You will not know exactly where until you are back in your hotel room, replaying it slowly. You were trained for this. The training did not feel like this. The training had structure and endpoints and instructors who told you when you had done something correctly. This has none of those things. This is just 2 people sitting in a cafe, and one of them is you. And you are holding your entire self very carefully, like something that might spill. On the flight back, you think about the man. His name is not his real name. His face you will never see again. You helped him, in a way. You also used him in a way. You understand now that these 2 things are not opposites. They are the same thing, viewed from different distances. You stop expecting the work to feel clean. That is what you lose. What you gain is something harder to name, a kind of efficiency, a way of moving through rooms without leaving much of yourself behind. Level 3, Senior Operations Officer. The briefing takes 11 minutes. You have been in longer meetings about parking, but this one carries a different weight, and you feel it settling into your shoulders as the slides advance. There is a name on the screen. There is a photograph. There is a list of what this person has done, and what they are likely to do, and what your role is and what happens next. You do not ask the question you are thinking. You have learned that asking certain questions signals doubt, and doubt at this level is expensive. So you nod. You take your notes. You walk out of the room carrying something you did not carry in. 3 months later, the operation concludes. It concludes successfully, which is a word that covers a great deal of territory. You write your after-action report with precise language. Every sentence is accurate. No sentence tells the whole story. You understand by now that this is not dishonesty. This is how institutions protect themselves, and how they protect you, and how the line between those 2 things becomes nearly impossible to find. You have dinner with a friend from before. Someone who has no idea what you do, not really. They talk about a promotion they received. They talk about stress. You listen. You are good at listening. At the end of the evening, they say you seem different. You ask them what they mean. They cannot quite explain it. You drive home knowing exactly what they mean. You crossed something this year. You are not sure it had a name, but you can feel it in the way you read a room now, in the way you trust almost no one, in the quiet that follows you everywhere, like a second shadow. Level 4. Chief of Station. The office has a window. It faces a courtyard where nothing interesting ever happens. You look at it often anyway. Your name now appears on documents that other people carry into rooms you are not in. You are the reason things move or stop moving. That is a strange kind of power. It does not feel like standing on high ground. It feels more like standing at the center of a web, sensing every vibration, responsible for every thread. Your team is good. You chose most of them. You trust some of them, which is as far as trust goes at this level. There is a young officer who reminds you of yourself at the beginning. Careful, observant, hungry to prove something. You watch her the way a surgeon watches a resident. You do not tell her she is doing well, because doing well is the minimum, and she needs to understand that without being told. An asset you have handled for 4 years goes quiet. Then he surfaces in a way that changes the calculus entirely. You have to make a decision in 72 hours, and the decision affects more than one life. You make it. You make it without flinching, at least on the outside. That night, alone in your apartment in a city that is not your home, you pour a drink and do not touch it. You think about the word asset. You think about the weight of treating a human being as a variable in an equation. You have done this for years. Tonight, for some reason, the word sits differently in your mind. You are not sure if that means you are becoming more human or simply more tired. Level 5. Deputy Director of Operations. People stand when you walk into rooms now. You have asked them not to. They do it anyway. There is a hierarchy to deference that has nothing to do with the rules. It has to do with what people sense, and they sense everything about you. The economy of your movements, the weight of your silences, the way your attention lands on something and stays. You read intelligence reports the way other people read obituaries, with a kind of practiced calm that holds the reality of it at a slight distance. A network compromised in one country, an operation that cost 2 years of work and 2 people their covers. You absorb it. You decide. You move on, because moving on is the only mechanism available. Your days are full of noise. Your interior life has grown very quiet. You are not sure when that happened. You notice it sometimes in the early morning, before the briefings begin, when you sit with coffee and the room is still. There is a version of you that existed before all of this. You can recall it the way you recall a film you watched a long time ago, familiar but distant, belonging to someone else's experience. A junior analyst sends you a memo questioning the direction of a long-running program. It is well-reasoned, it is brave, you read it twice. You do nothing with it, because the program is too embedded to change now. But you remember her name. You think about what it cost her to write it. You think about when you stopped writing things like that. And you cannot identify the exact moment, which disturbs you more than you show. Level 6, Director of the Central Intelligence Agency. The room you now occupy was once occupied by people whose decisions shaped decades. You think about that sometimes, not with pride, but with something closer to vertigo. You sit in the same chair, you look at the same walls. The decisions are different now only in their scale, and in the number of people who will never know your name had anything to do with what happened to them. A senator asks you, in a closed hearing, whether you sleep well. The question is meant to unsettle you. It does not. You answer carefully and truthfully, and the truth is that sleep is no longer something you think about in terms of quality. It is a function. Everything is a function now. Your daughter called last week. The conversation lasted 9 minutes. You counted. Not deliberately, but the habit of tracking time is too deep to suspend. She said she feels like she is talking to an institution, not a person. You said you understood. You did not tell her that the distinction she is drawing may no longer be as clean as she believes, that you are not sure, at this point, where the institution ends and the person begins. You look out at the city from a window you are not supposed to stand near for security reasons. You stand near it anyway. Below, people move in patterns they cannot see. They are living inside systems they did not design and cannot fully perceive. You helped design some of those systems. You enforced others. You bent several and broke at least one. And the city moves on, indifferent to the architecture of its own invisible world. You wonder, not for the first time, whether the work made the country safer or whether it simply made the danger less visible. Whether those two things are meaningfully different. You do not reach a conclusion. Conclusions, you have learned, are mostly stories we tell ourselves to make motion feel like a rival. The window is cold when you press your fingers against it. You leave no mark. That seems right. That seems, in some way you cannot fully articulate, like the truest summary of everything you have built. And you stand there, in the quiet of an enormous responsibility, wondering whether the person you were at the beginning, the one who flagged a single mistranslated word because it seemed like the honest thing to do, whether that person would recognize you now. And whether, if they did, they would consider it a tragedy or simply the cost of something they had not yet learned to name.